Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to We Believe Digital Studios, Jackson, Mississippi. We are so glad to have you here. We've got a magnificent media program going over here in this Black-owned and Black-operated studio, We Believe Digital. We recently added radio, WBLV, streaming radio, 24/7, all kinds of music, working on some different programming right now. Just a really rapidly growing media company, and we're so glad you're joining us. We'd love to answer any questions you have, or feel free to stop by sometime. You know, we're over on Livingston Road behind the Medical Mall. Our number is 1-800-492-5186. And this is the Newsbreak Show. Chris Young kicking off, 14 stories, kind of plucked from hundreds, 14 of them to share with you today. We'll start at the local level with from WJTV. The trial for William Polo Edwards has been moved back to July. The jury trial has been set for July 29th at 9 a.m. in Hinds County Circuit Court before Judge Eleanor Faye Peterson. Edwards was denied bond by Peterson in October 23 after a mistrial was declared. He was on trial for allegedly killing Better Men Society founder Robert Davis inside the home of Shadow Robinson in Clinton on May 1st of 2022. In early February, Edwards asked Peterson for bond. This month, early February, asked Peterson for bond due to his financial troubles. Attorney Thomas Fortner will no longer represent Edwards due to lack of payment and his retirement. Edwards was assigned a public defender. That's from WJTV on this morning. From WLBT, in what appears to be the first time since he took over Jackson's water system, interim third-party manager Ted Hannafin appears to be at odds with a federal agency. You know, we told you before he was asking permission to get a hold of SNAP records related to billing and so forth. And this week, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a motion opposing Hannafin's request, opposing his request seeking the district court's help in obtaining information on SNAP benefits. SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Individuals participating in the program are eligible for a reduced meter availability charge under a new rate structure proposed by the third party. However, in a motion filed on Wednesday, the attorney for the Justice Department said federal law prevents the information from being released except in narrow circumstances. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit confused. You got privacy issues versus a substantially lowered bill. So anyway, maybe it was a case of good intention that run up against privacy laws, so we'll see how that pans out. The I Love. Jackson State University has been awarded $100,000 for its latest project. And as oftentimes happen when good things happen in Jackson and Hinds County, it's with the direct involvement of Congressman Benny Thompson, Democratic congressman for the 2nd Congressional District here in Mississippi. He's going to be running for re-election soon. I want to say been there 30, 31, 32 years. Does a magnificent job for our 2nd District. He announced Thursday that the National Science Foundation awarded the university money for a project called Planning, Artificial Intelligence-Assisted High-Performance Parallel Computing for Power System Optimization. How's that for a title? Let me give you that one more time now. Planning, Artificial Intelligence-Assisted High-Performance Parallel Computing for Power System Optimization. Is that beautiful? So they're getting $100,000 to help move that project along. According to the release, the planning grant activities will involve extensive literature reviews, pilot studies, interdisciplinary collaborations, and identification of critical issues and knowledge gaps, and the design of a comprehensive research methodology. These activities will deepen understanding of AI technologies, HPC techniques, parallel optimization, mathematical programming, and power system engineering. These people aren't playing at Jackson State University. Also from, this time from WAPT, young Miss Kennedy Cooper out there on the beat. The 17th annual Mississippi Blues Marathon making its way back to the capital city on tomorrow. The City with Soul sees thousands of people from across the world each year for this event that begins and ends at the Mississippi Capitol Complex on High Street. The Mississippi Blues Marathon celebrates musicians who have made history over the years, as well as those who continue to shape the sound of blues music today. Mississippi's blues heritage is a rich legacy that's been celebrated in Jackson for decades. So, Blues Marathon. A couple years ago on the Blues Marathon, I had two buddies come down here from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. One of them is a runner, Tammy, as she ran in the Blues Marathon, and her best friend and my friend, Thea. The two of them came down. I got to show them Jackson for the weekend, and Tammy ran that marathon. She loves to run. Loved to run. I think she's run in about 40 states so far. Okay, jumping out to the broader Mississippi picture, you know today is just another day that our Republican legislators, government officials have failed to call for any sort of hearing on the TANF scandal, the largest fraud in Mississippi state history, upwards of $97 million. Not just stolen, not just misspent or kind of reprogrammed or however you want to say that, but stolen from what was intended, that money intended for the poorest of the poor in Mississippi. Mississippi, the most church-attending state in the nation. Upwards of $97 million provided by the federal government for the poorest of the poor, knowing that we're the poorest state in the nation. And these critters, two governors and their appointees, you know members of the legislature had to be involved. You know they had to know. You see, this is why they're not talking about it. And so we go another day without any hearings being called for. They're very content to keep their mouths shut like good Christians or good legislators, or however you want to say that. Keep their mouths shut and hope that this passes them by. And we'll see how all that goes. A black child in Mississippi who urinated in public had his civil rights violated when he was arrested and sentenced to probation, his family said in a federal lawsuit that seeks $2 million. We've told you this story about Quantavious Eason, who is now 11 years old, was a 10-year-old third grader in Senatobia. Senatobia police arrested him August 10th after an officer saw him relieving himself next to his mother's car. The 10-year-old had to go. He tried to get in the office where his mother was meeting with an attorney, it looks like, and couldn't get in the office. The little boy had to go, and he went. And the cops arrested him. The suit filed on Wednesday in federal court in Mississippi alleges excessive force, intentional infliction of emotional distress, failure to train and supervise, false arrest, and malicious prosecution. The child's mother, LaTanya Eason, is named as the plaintiff. Named as defendants are the city of Senatobia, its police chief, Richard Chandler, the arresting officer who is now no longer with the force, and 4 officers who were not named. And I was just up in Senatobia a couple weeks ago. I went up there to say hello and take a few pictures of a segregation academy that's up there in Senatobia. They claim federal tax credits every year, and they run in a virtually all-white private school up there. They try to dip into the Mississippi taxpayer monies whenever possible, but they certainly get those tax credits, which is a burden to everyone. And when you look through the photographs, my God, I think I mentioned in an article in the Mississippi Link newspaper, I want to say I saw 56 photographs on their website. 2 of those photographs were of black people. 2 out of 56. And when I was there in person, although I was not there long because they didn't really want to speak to me, I didn't see any black people for the time I was in the school. So anyway, that's where this went down. Arresting a black 10-year-old for relieving himself beside the car back in August. Federal lawsuit for $2 million. Mississippi's Republican Attorney General Lynn Fitch sued the Republican state auditor yesterday. Ha! Shadrack White, the state auditor, trying to block the auditor's effort to recover misspent welfare money from retired NFL quarterback Brett Favre. Money that was supposed to help some of the poor. Oh, you've heard this already today, see? And Fitch's lawsuit says that filing litigation to recover improperly spent money is the responsibility of the Attorney General's office, not the auditor. Both the Attorney General and the auditor are elected statewide, and the lawsuit is the latest rift between them. This is from WLBT. I'm pretty sure it's a story by Anthony Warren, not positive. Favre filed last year against the auditor. That change in representation came after an announcement that White, the state auditor, is writing a book to be published later this year about his investigation into improper spending of welfare funds. Shadrack White, the auditor of Mississippi, where there are still so many questions unanswered about when he discovered this fraud and when he actually made it public. Many unanswered questions about that if you read between the lines of all the reporting that's gone on by Pulitzer Prize winning investigative journalist Anna Wolf. Now, why in the world would the Attorney General want to block him? I wonder, you think she's hiding something? Or you think she's covering for somebody? I mean, you know, White came up through the system under former Governor Phil Bryant. You know, he's the one that first put him in office. You see how dicey this gets? There still are questions and heartbreak about the cause of a fire that destroyed a museum dedicated to the life of Mississippi blues legend referred to as Mississippi John Hurt. As he taught himself to play guitar when he was around 9 years old, first recorded music in 1928. Because of his brand of blues was a commercial failure, he went back to the farm work in Avalon, the town of Avalon in Carroll County, Mississippi. But Hurt became popular eventually, and his music revived at blues festivals around the nation in the early 60s. Artists like Bob Dylan, Taj Mahal, Jerry Garcia recorded his songs. The museum that contained the artifacts and some of the history of his career is a total loss. Much of the music was about the town of Avalon in Carroll County. Peggy Brown, the music executive, producer, artist, manager. She also added to that story that somehow, some way, that we'll find a way to get that Mississippi John Hurt Museum rebuilt. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Okay, so here we are now at the halfway point. We'll skip out for a quick break, and we'll be right back with you.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee. To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back, everybody. We Believe Digital, We Believe Newsbreak. Glad you're joining us. We're skipping out on this second and final segment to the national level. All this talk going on coming out of Alabama about this Supreme Court Justice Tom Parker. I should say Supreme Court Chief Justice. On the same day that he handed down an opinion declaring that fertilized frozen embryos are people, imperiling women's access to in vitro fertilization treatments, he espoused support for a once fringe philosophy that calls on evangelical Christians to reshape society based on their interpretation of the Bible. Ha! Church and state, right? During an online broadcast hosted by Tennessee evangelist John Aniello on Friday, Parker suggested America was founded explicitly as a Christian nation, and we know that's not true, and discussed his embrace of the Seven Mountains Mandate, the belief that conservative Christians are meant to rule over 7 key areas of American life, including media, business, education, and government. He said God created government, and the fact that we have let it go into the possession of others, it's heartbreaking. This Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice Tom Parker said. First reported this week by Media Matters for America, a liberal nonprofit media watchdog. That's why he is, quote, that's why he is calling and equipping people to step back into these mountains right now. Unquote. Hours before the interview was published, Parker issued a concurring opinion in the case in which he and his fellow justices ruled frozen embryos have the same rights as living children under Alabama's Wrongful Death of a Minor Act. Parker wrote that Alabama had adopted, quote, a theologically based view of the sanctity of life, and that, quote, life cannot be wrongfully destroyed without incurring the wrath of a holy God, unquote. That story I got from NBC News. It's so interesting how these things happen. I was talking to my brother yesterday, who lived in California, one of them, and I told him about this situation here, and I said, watch, within 2 days this is going to be in mainstream media, and here it is the following day in NBC News. So we'll see how all this plays out. There's a lot of reaction going on to this. So you have people trying to prevent the stoppage of pregnancy with the tearing down of Roe v. Wade, and then you have these other people interfering with people who are desperate to get pregnant through in vitro fertilization. So, I mean, yesterday's AT&T widespread outage left thousands without service, was likely caused, they finally said yesterday evening, by a process error, not a cyber attack. The trouble started early Thursday, but by afternoon, AT&T reported service had been restored by all customers. Pardon me. Based on initial review, the company thinks the outage, quote, was caused by the application and execution of an incorrect process used as we were expanding our network. I don't know if that means somebody flipped the wrong switch or what. The application and execution of an incorrect process. Anyway, everybody's back up and doing fine with that now. At the max, apparently it went up to about 71,000 users, especially in Houston, Chicago, Dallas, and LA, and Atlanta also. Sad news from three-time Olympic gold medalist Gabby Douglas. Well, we were just telling you a minute ago that she was expected to make her return to competitive gymnastics tomorrow at the Winter Cup. But she announced yesterday on Instagram that she had to withdraw from the event due to a positive COVID test. She said, I was so excited to get back out on the competition floor, but unfortunately I just tested positive for COVID. I'm crushed, but I'll see you guys soon. So a little bit of a delay with her return, looks like, coming back. Gabby Douglas, three-time Olympic gold medalist. A Cleveland, Ohio woman pleaded guilty Thursday. Just hate to tell you this story, but this kind of stuff goes on. She pleaded guilty Thursday to aggravated murder of the toddler she left alone for more than a week while she went on vacation. Christelle Candelario, 32 years old, left her 16-month-old daughter, Jalen, quote, alone and unattended, unquote, at her home on June 6th, 2023. Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Michael C. O'Malley said in a Thursday release. She didn't return home till June 16th, 10 days later. When she returned, Candelario found Jalen unresponsive and called the police. On the international front, to wind up our show today, two stories. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, focusing on Israeli-Hamas war. Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu presented his plan for Gaza after the war ends with Hamas, saying that Israel would be allowed to operate militarily in this enclave for an indefinite period of time to prevent the resurgence of the militant group. The plan stipulates that UNRWA, the main aid organization in the Gaza Strip, must be closed. UNRWA's Commissioner General Felipe Lazzarini said in a letter yesterday to Dennis Francis, President of the UN General Assembly, that his organization was at a breaking point at the time of unprecedented need in Gaza. The agency could be forced to cease operations entirely by the end of the month after several countries froze aid after Israel alleged that some of its workers had taken part in the attack. An Israel delegation is traveling to Paris for negotiations for a hostage release and ceasefire, an official said. Weeks after Netanyahu dismissed proposals from Hamas as delusional. Hamas leaders have left Cairo, where days of discussions on the deal had also been taking place. Almost at 30,000 deaths now. Almost at 30,000 deaths, Palestinians, people killed in Gaza since the war began, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. More than 69,000 have been injured and thousands more missing. Israel military officials said at least 237 soldiers have been killed since the ground invasion in Gaza began. And of course, when the initial attacks took place by Hamas inside Israel, a multi-pronged attack on October 7th, 1,200 people were estimated killed by those attacks. And our final story for today, sort of following up on the death of Navalny in a Russian prison camp. President Joe Biden announced this morning more than 500 sanctions on Russia over its war in Ukraine and the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. The largest tranche of sanctions since the conflict began. Biden said the sanctions would target those connected to Navalny's imprisonment, as well as Russia's financial sector, defense industrial base, procurement networks, and sanction evaders across several continents. Quote, they will ensure Putin pays an even steeper price for his aggression abroad and repression at home, Biden said in a statement about the sanctions. He noted the action is timed with the second anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. is also imposing export restrictions on almost 100 entities that support Russia's military efforts and taking action to reduce Russia's energy revenues. I've directed my team to strengthen support for civil society, independent media, and those who would fight for democracy around the world. He emphasized the need for Congress to pass the Senate foreign aid package, saying Ukraine is, quote, running out of ammunition. Ukraine needs more supplies from the U.S. to, quote, hold the line against Russia's relentless attacks, unquote, which are enabled by ammunition and arms from both Iran and North Korea, the president said. So that's it for today for Newsbreak. We're coming into the weekend and hope that everybody has as best as possible weekend for yourselves and for those around you. Please take good care. And we'll see you back for the Newsbreak on next Wednesday and Friday at 3 p.m. I'll see you back on Monday nights for Sizzling in Mississippi at 6:30. Take good care.